This video is about complex numbers. Complex numbers have both a real part and an imaginary part. So in this example, 3 plus 7i, 3 is the real part, and 7 is the imaginary part. So when you add and subtract complex numbers, if you had this, 3 plus 7i plus 4 plus 5i, when you add these together, you just add the real parts and get 7i, 7, and then you just add the imaginary parts and you get 12i. 7 plus 12i. Alright, what happens when you subtract imaginary numbers? Let's say you have 5 plus 3i minus 6 plus 2i. You kind of do it just the same. So I distribute the negative, so I get 5 plus 3i minus 6 minus 2i. I kind of add these like they're like terms, like the real part, I add to the real part, so I get negative 1, 5 minus 6, and then the imaginary part, I add to the imaginary part. Or subtract in this case, 3i minus 2i. 3 minus 2 is just I. This is the answer. What if I take imaginary numbers and I multiply them? I just multiply them like you FOIL. 5 times 7, 35. 5 times negative 4, negative 20i. 3i times 7, 21i. 3i times negative 4i is negative 12i squared. Then to simplify, combine like terms. 21 minus 20 is just plain old I. And then you have this, and if you remember from the last video, we talked about I squared. I squared is defined as negative 1. So what I do here is I go negative 12 times negative 1, and that gives me positive 12. So then I combine the real parts. 35 plus 12 is 47 plus I. All right, what if you get something like this? 2i cubed means 2i times 2i times 2i. So you multiply all the 2's. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. I times I is I cubed. If you remember that there's a pattern of i's, I'll write them all out for you. All right, so this is 2i cubed, so I write it out 3 times. 2i times 2i times 2i. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. 8i cubed. You have to remember this pattern. This is where I gave you the pattern. I cubed is equal to negative I. So instead of writing I cubed, you substitute negative I, and you multiply it out and get this. Okay, what if you have something like this? Well, you distribute the 4i. So you get 40i minus 36i squared. Because 4i times negative 9i is negative 36, and I squared. Okay, so to finish this, you have to deal with I squared. And I squared, we know, is negative 1. Okay, final problem. So if I have 4 plus I squared, I would write it out twice. Then I'd multiply it. Then I'd simplify it. Combine the 4 i's to get 8i. And I squared is negative 1. So 16 take away 1 is 15 plus 8i. All right, that's it, Chargers.